is enough. Tibetan people deserve freedom, equality, and justice. If United Nations does not stand for anything, then we don't expect anything from the United Nations. At the same time, the world will not respect you because they will say you're a hypocrite. You don't represent the people who deserve to be represented. Then I'm sorry to say, if United Nations does not stand with us today, then UNO will be not called United Nations Organizations, but it will be called Useless Nations Organizations.
On India Global tonight.
Master Day, I just want to say that the news coverage of His Holiness Dalai Lama and the boy by NDTV has hurt the Tibetans and people in Arunachal Pradesh, and hopefully in the future, NDTV will be a bit sensitive. That's our request, because we love India so much. When it comes from India like that, it hurts us more.
All right. Dr. Lobsang Sangay making that statement there with regards to the viral clip of the Dalai Lama. Many thanks, Dr. Sangay, for speaking with NDTV.
Tibet.net ding as a Pushung is email. Email lejo digit Sangma computer design la Sama Yardir. Tanda Sijore, Nai Kablare, Tenga Kablare, Maomba Inea, Suine, email Sama Pagi Ebre. She Kaya dot la your marriage issue. Tak Harla Warsana, Sijo computer Tomba de Shas. The Dilagusa. The computer Tomba you go Jimmy Shima, Tatim Cheche, Garan computer refresh Cheche, Zangma Suche, and Sijo Pengela, Nangsha. And even Chin Dokara Yamare, Driver, email Shaza, Sasha, there was TCRC Yoruba, computer Sama Yore. Here question, Digit Sama Sava, the Sijo email Raju, Digit Sama and Sava Ya, Yasu Cheddar and Post. Lana and Sijo email Shuma, what did the Linga Yomarta? Yes, and this you ever chicken the day Yomar. Yet under Sijo la email the Dema, you would some window. Dodadi Gidung Gidung, 2 days Manans. Sijo Lobsang Sangay email Lejo Chaza, Pagetaram Sala computer Zeliores. How do you know what is? Chicken Kia Yomaris. This one's a Sama Yores, should you?
Lost to Jenna, and to when you are soon.
Ibro Shaja, Shasham Dixia. Anyone to the direct Hassa, Tibet, Tajet, email is a good Jogalaga email, Mavichin Russia said, oh, the good was a Hassa, was Damsla Shezo, you get a chamber Chunju, Chunju Mavs, Damsla and Chunju Chamber, so Chamber Numlu dated the York. I dedicated Chunju Pere. Kangush Mare. Email and the Sikyong email, but the Luchurical, she would never check your Sangma. Bad never chats at the Yorwaya, Lache, computer Thomason, Sikyong Dr. Say a email some of Thomason doors. The Mare Sikyong survey, Galu, Tungjin number Sangmalata, Sikyong at Tibet.net, Galu at Tibet.net. Legu Nerda, Sangma TCR signals, computer designer. Sangma del Sasha. Loju Jonga Nala email Sui email Google Nerva, Penning one church. And the server ding and zero. Tibet.net ding as a Pushung is email. Email lejo digit Sangma computer design la Sama Yardir. Tanda Sijore, Nai Kablare, Tenga Kablare, Maomba Inea, Suine, email Sama Pagi Ebre. She Kaya dot la your marriage issue. Tak Harla Warsana, Sijo computer Tomba de Shas. The computer Tomba you go Jimmy Shima, Pivichizona, Doyamara, has Rawan Cheshirwaya, Tibet Lenja over Yorwaya. Pivichi was Saturday, Gizit on Shed Rosh and Tigorva. Tainea Tanda Colonaya Jorva, Colo di Yapu Mare, Consushone, Mana or and the Kubjas, the dick shows, the song, and at the day songs, and the number Chikung Shota in the number Kunsho, the digital songs. And I do stay using a 어디 송수와 안디 남패수 안 권수쇼가라 남수 아스탄가 빠르시 자고 송수와 아니 빠르시 자고 이 만난조래 지쇼이라 이제 다듬제 제제 가랑 컴퓨터들이 리프레시 제제와 장마 제제 아니 시요 팽엘라 낭샤샤 이메일 킨도라 도하라야 말아요 도하라마 이메일 찾아 사샤샤 그렇게 단사 내가 TCRC 열어봐 컴퓨터 참아 열어 얘 과체는 되게 참아 싸봐 시종 이메일 라디오 되게 참아 아니 싸봐야 계속 제대로는 보스 라네야 시종의 이메일 쉬움하고 들링에 혀말다야 야 선대 지구래와 지구 근데 혀말 얘 단다 시종의 이메일 들이 마고 용을 상면도 도다디 기둥 레벨 갑라 간년 치수 삼두르미 체기 디디오 칼랑알 컴퓨터 나요가 똥바나스 아니 간신디 레스 주임베 딱 컴퓨터 아니 똥바 스위치 아니 그냥 열어봐 아 내가 이네 사바 고추야 저 가리 이네야 땅알 답대 스위치 아니 디 참 똥바 스위 먹어 체 똥바 스위치 아니 컴퓨터 지어 하려고 너 리프레시 제체 아니 사바 표시 땅 추추 세버데스 아니 이메일 개체야 되게 유교니스 직립하게 TCRS 컴퓨터 대제 창마 유여버레스 시종 이메일 내주지 니바 파수 인제 지금 이게 상마 기둥라고 유여버레스 딜리 개체야 여바이나 거둥을 유여버레스 간선의 이메일 디 파수 다인데 시종을 태가 이메일 땅에 빼 용유돼야 돼 아리신스기 야나신슬 이메일 태가 가왔던 땅 하러와 기둥균 땅으로 와 아리신지 기둥기 야나신지 기둥 야신슬 기둥라 땅안 기둥네 아니 아리신지 쇼게 안 다른 아니 이메일 데 릴레이션이 된 가리 야가스 안 렌디디 잡스르다 너다 다라네 개체야 되게 삼아 기둥라고 해 이래 개체야 이래 가둥라고 해 그래서 이 시종 이메일 강직해 놔요 말해 안 삼두르면서
mountain in the house but his knowledge is wonderful. Now last year, he elected this young, energetic, educated, modern educated, he elected. So then I thought, now time come, I should take full retirement, complete retirement. So now, politically, he is my boss. However, spiritually, I am so da Lobsang Sangay genki da bari shirayagodo and 하버지 지지에도 다 인지계를 통해 지금 다 쳐서 뜻을 나로 mongu지를 Lobsang Sangay 다 제네소다 로종 유르부체 양용사리 요인데 시라게 때도 장부다 지 너한테로 제제 시라야도 제가 아디 시라야도 그 상담을 제지 지 다와만 다 찍지 다 대수고티 로제마티 디스니 삼루남식 방주고다 서울 콜보 양샤도 다 되게 계셔요. So Lobsang Sangay elected political leadership. So as far as the political matter is concerned, he is my boss. Lobsang Sangay 직례리 하래. 야가르지. 등류기 시행 차상하게 되었지. 하버드 사대 로종 샤샤. 로종 다 등류기 시행 통해 다 셀서버 차들이 하래. 아니 정말 Lobsang Sangay shumuse yebe kadune nge ngoshin thasam namda nyone dane ningdo deba shira yawe so da deya do yuzane memange daran an tame mangwe bi da to Lobsang Sangay 탑체 독스리 당가데 야오신 통수 등류기 신 차상 여등의 딱 갱케는 돼야지 들 딱딱 합접해서 아주 통용도 제가 드리는데 Lobsang Sangay here. Here it is, this young, energetic, educated, modern educated, he elected. So then I thought, now time come, I should take full retirement, complete retirement. So now, politically, is my fault. 다 로투스 침배시고 난 아니 로투즈 튼줄 달래가 그도데 네 첩식인 경원데 위두체베 아니 시용 로상 상글 알바 지피야지 좀버데 마시라 가보시고 중스 진네 님도 나가 데레트 사지 롬망고 코네 소소 자와예데베데 따따리 두송세네 두슈기송 되게 시 간다 시종 로상 상글라다 갱키체 갱키를 제리야 벌거다 지금 정리도 또 야가슝 참배 이는 아메리카 유럽 쳐서다 되게다 계고 잡는데 나리자 친체 지금 자와치하기디 쉐라야오 용기 저런 소사 용기 아메리카 레타는 그게 하버드 유니버시티야 그게입니다. 가서 우리 경원체도 스타일이 야옥사 가다 단다비디 싫어요. 그 생각도 없잖아요. 뭐 주셔야지. 아무 체크도 좋아요. 아마 매주셔야 되길 가는 전에 근데 반장말에 빨리 로 주수친 배시고 난 아니 로트주 튼줄 달래베 그도데 네 첩식인 경원데 위두체베 아니 시용 로상 상글 알바 지피야지 좀버데 마시라 가보시고 중스 진네 님도 나가 데레트 사지 롬망고 코네 소소 자와예데베데 따따리 두송세네 두슈기송 되게 시경사양 시기 배시셔요. 야 그도데 저서 나로는 지 구도를 전에지 로트모트를 전도 스타일다 벌거 다주셔야지 시경사야다 민디 배시셔야 돼. 자 드링도 전에 간다 시경 로상 생글라다 갱키체 갱키를 제리야 벌거다 지금 정리도 또 야가슝 참배 이는 아메리카 유럽 쳐서다 되게다 계고 잡는데 나리자 친체 지금 자와치하디디 쉐라야오 용기 저런 소사 용기 아메리카 레타는 그게 하버드 유니버시티야 그게입니다. 가서 우리 경원체도 스타일이 야옥사 가다 단다디디 쉐라야.
Hello, taste to everybody. Yesterday I spoke at the University of Colorado on this issue, but then the audio was not clear, so many people requested that I make a statement on this, especially on the issue of His Holiness Dalai Lama, playfully kissing a boy and saying something politically incorrect. Those who know His Holiness the Dalai Lama, like Tibetans and Buddhists and people who have visited him and met him, will not see any story whatsoever in the story which is being shared and reported by major news media around the world. Number one, the incident happened in February 28. Why the news is going viral now after 5 weeks, that itself is a question. Number two, if you have met His Holiness Dalai Lama, having worked with him for 10 years, I've been with him in many public events. He is one playful person. For example, if there is an Indian security person with a beard, he will pull his beard. If you have a mustache, he will play with your mustache. Sometimes, he will pull his mustache down, I'm sure that person has spent many minutes, keeping it up. He pulls it down. And if you have a big head, he'll point your head and say, big head, So if you have a big nose, he will say, big nose, and he goes close and gives the New Zealand Maori greeting, of touching each other's nose. So he's like that all the time playing. And if you are bald, that's it. He'll rub your head and give you one spank. Sometimes quite hard. My security Kalyan used to get quite a few spank on his head because he was bald. Now, imagine His Holiness Dalai Lama going to the White House, meeting the President of America. This can't be, as serious and formal meeting as possible. He meets President Barack Obama. What does he do? His Holiness says to Obama, oh, you have big ear. He starts playing with his ear. And what does Obama say? Oh, you notice, So in that very serious, highest level of meeting, His Holiness plays with people. Another story. His Holiness was giving a lecture at Harvard University Sanders Theater, and he had to go through this basement tunnel, and where there was also an office. So we had cleared the tunnel. So as His Holiness was coming out, one lady from the office came out with the files, and she was busy moving forward. His Holiness ran and gave one slap, from the back to the lady. She turned around and looking, thinking, who the hell hit me, And His Holiness looked at her, smiled, and she also smiled. They both laughed and they hugged. They started walking. What did His Holiness tell this lady? He said, fat. Because this lady was, on, heavier side. She laughed, he laughed, they hugged, they walked towards the stairs, and he said goodbye to her, and she said goodbye to him. And she shared the story that His Holiness hit her, and she, he called her fat. Why the lady was not offended? Because His Holiness is sincere. He has no ill intention. He was very pure in his motivation. For example, myself, I got elected in 2011. In front of thousands of people, I think 50,000 people, His Holiness was giving a speech. At the end, he introduced me. He said, oh, now we have a new leader. He's from Harvard and modern educated and all that. I was getting, quite proud. Then he said, his Tibetan is, of a school standard. Can you imagine? I'm supposed to be a Tibetan leader, supposed to have oratory skills and Tibetan language. And then His Holiness just said, his standard of Tibetan is of a school kid. Everybody laughed, I was embarrassed, right? But what did I do? Did I feel anything bad towards His Holiness? No. Why? Because he's pure, he's sincere, he has no ill intention at all. I laughed with him. I was embarrassed. I wish he would be a little more politically correct with me in front of these people. But no, that's His Holiness for us, right? So people should understand that if you watch the video with the boy, Tibetans will say, that boy is so lucky. He got a hug from His Holiness, and he also got a kiss, right? But then from Western or others' perspective, I can understand it was politically incorrect. Then His Holiness office issued a statement, said sorry to to the boy and the family, anyone who was offended. Now that's the end of the story. We should move forward, right? But then, this rapper, musician, what Cardi B, and saying, oh, the people in power abuse their power. We should protect our children. And she shares the story about His Holiness and the boy. I mean, come on, give a break. Let me share with you a story that no one knows this. Maybe barely 10 people know about this. During COVID, right, America was number 1 in infection and death. India was number 2. That's where His Holiness Dalai Lama lived, right? So I was going to Washington, D.C., and his personal physician, Dr. Sikyong Dr, called me and said, hey, when you go to D.C., America is about to launch, Pfizer vaccine. If you could get some vaccine for His Holiness, because His Holiness is 85 now, entering 86 years old at that time. All the people who died, majority of them were elders, and His Holiness Dalai Lama was vulnerable given his age, right? So I came to Washington, D.C., this is in November of 2020, right? And I met people at the White House, the Deputy National Security Advisors and others, and I made a request. And I said, His Holiness is very, he's given his age, we need to vaccinate him and protect from COVID. And White House agreed. And then message was conveyed to the U.S. Embassy in Delhi. They also agreed, right? And then the vaccine was supposed to be taken to Dharamsala. Now the personal physician of His Holiness and the personal secretary approached His Holiness. You know what His Holiness said? He said, oh, please thank the government of America, but I don't want Pfizer vaccine. Because 1.4 billion people in India, they don't have vaccine. And I see people here, ordinary people, they are not getting vaccine also, right? I will wait till they get vaccinated, then only I'll get vaccinated. So, he refused a vaccine from America. That's His Holiness Dalai Lama, right? Now, we waited for a few months, right? And then finally, the vaccine was introduced in India, and AstraZeneca, which is 67% effective. And then again, the personal physician called me and asked me whether the government of India could facilitate that he be vaccinated at his residence. And I made the request to the Health Secretary in Delhi, Health Minister of Himachal and Health Secretary, and they all agreed, right? And the CMO, or the Chief Medical Officer of Dharamsala, was informed. And then, next day, the personal physician went to His Holiness and said, Your Holiness, the COVID vaccine will be given to you at your residence, right? What did His Holiness say? His Holiness said, why should I get a special treatment? I should go down to the hospital where all the people get their vaccine. So he went to the local hospital, like ordinary Tibetans and Indians, and got vaccinated, right? So that's His Holiness. He never used his personal popularity and influence. Far less than that. Even vaccine was offered by America. Even when he was offered to get vaccinated at his residence, he said, no, I will go down to the local hospital. So Tibetans know about it, right? Buddhists know about it. All the people around His Holiness know about it, that he is sincere. He is for us the Buddha of compassion, right? So I hope people around the world will understand through the stories, because of my personal experience, right? And put it in proper context whenever you talk about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Lastly, major media have covered these story, and then it's time to move on. But also, you are showing concern about children, which is fair. What about 1 million Tibetan children who are forcibly removed from their homes in nomadic families, farming families in Tibet, and they are forced to study in boarding school in urban areas where they are taught in Chinese language? Everything Chinese is taught. They are made into Chinese. Even the UN human rights experts have reported on this. But all these major media who covered this incident of His Holiness Dalai Lama did not report about this 1 million Tibetan children. I hope you all will report about serious and real issues in Tibet. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody for listening. I hope you got a proper context based on my personal experience about His Holiness Dalai Lama. We love him. We are devoted to him because he is a great leader. He is the great 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet. Thank you.